feel our oneness with water, especially realizing that our bodies are mostly water, then let's savor the goodness and the beauty of water and all the gifts it brings us and feel gratitude. Then let's be aware of the polluted and scarce water that our greed has created and the consequent suffering and thirst and death, and be truly sorry and ask for forgiveness. Then let us personally and together as people of faith commit ourselves to greater awareness and action toward the goal of protecting our water so that it can be clean, abundant, and life-giving for all life on earth. And so let us pray. God, we gather up all these sentiments in our heart and ask that your Spirit guide us today in this seminar. I thank you for all the people that are gathered here that are so committed to the earth, all the organizations, the leaders that have done so much, and ask that we would increase our efforts no matter what our level of involvement, and that all people of faith and all the congregations in our metro area would be even much more committed to water. So may your Spirit be with us and bless us as we gather together today and for all our efforts on water. So we thank you and praise you now and always. Amen.
Amen. The Sustainable Sanctuary Coalition 2014 theme is water. And as you probably know, water, it's a necessity of life. I'm sure that you know, while we can go without food for a fairly lengthy amount of time, going without water for more than 3 days will put our life in peril. We all know that if we go without water for too long, we'll simply die. Oh, we're having some PowerPoint issues. Just hit the space bar. Is it not working? There you go. Hit the space bar again. There we go. Now we're on slide 3, so we're caught up. Water, however, not only is necessary for us to live, it is also necessary for life in general. Scientists say that life on Earth would not be possible if there failed to be the molecular union between 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Science has shown in recent decades that water is a building block of life on Earth. And scientists are using that theory as they search for life on other planets also. Since the landing of the Mars Pathfinder on July 4th, 1997, and the subsequent landings of other probes, it is now possible to begin to search for life on the planet Mars. The first thing that scientists are searching for in order to know if life could have ever been sustained on Mars is the evidence of water. NASA scientists believe that finding evidence of life on Mars is only possible if water has been present in liquid form at some point in this planet's history. The importance of water cannot be overemphasized. This importance of water has encouraged many people throughout time to figuratively use water to describe certain human qualities and experiences. These descriptions are so vivid and powerful that many of them have become adages that are still used today. Have you ever heard someone who has had good fortune say that they are showered with blessings? Or have you ever heard a writer or musician say that she is going through a dry spell when she is suffering from writer's block or struggling to be creative? Humans understand the importance of water. And it's not surprising that water is used figuratively throughout scriptures of various traditions. One use in the Torah is familiar to many of us here today, when the psalmist declares, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters." In the New Testament of the Bible, Jesus used water metaphorically when he talked with the Samaritan woman at the well. He said to her, "Everyone who drinks the water from this well will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water that I give will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give will become a wellspring, will become a spring of water welling up to eternal life." In the Quran, chapter 24, verse 45 says, "Allah created every living creature from water. Some of them go on their bellies, some of them on 2 legs, and some of them on 4. Allah creates whatever He wills. Allah has a power over all things." And in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 26, we hear, "Whoever with loving devotion offers unto me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I affectionately accept that devotional offering from that pure-hearted one. In many ways, it goes without saying that water is important. However, in America, it's very easy for us to take this for granted. We simply go to the faucet, we turn it on, and voila, fresh, clean water. But the truth is, the water situation in the United States is not as good as we'd like to think. A recent report from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences shows that nearly 1 in 10 watersheds in the U.S. is stressed, with demand for water exceeding natural supply, a trend that researchers say appears to likely become very normal. Also, according to the Natural Resource Defense Council, by 2050, large parts of the United States could become affected by water shortages. And if you look at this map, you'll see that there's extremely high opportunity for shortages, high, moderate, and low. And if you look, there's huge amount of sections that are extremely at risk. And if you look where we are, Kansas City is in a high section, Springfield, Joplin, St. Louis, Columbia, all of these major cities are at risk for either high or extreme high water shortages in 2050. And we may be tempted to think that the problems are a long way off and someone else will have fixed them by then. But unfortunately, we already are seeing these issues today. Just last week, the BBC reported that California's water agency announced that for the first time it may be unable to deliver water to local agencies amid a worsening drought. Forecasters are predicting that 2014 could be California's driest year on record. And if this does happen as they're predicting, it could affect 25 million people living on the West Coast. Also, in light of the January 9th chemical leak in West Virginia, which left more than 300,000 people unable to drink or bathe in their water, we should not be naive to think that our water supplies here in Kansas City are immune from problems. Fortunately, as you will learn today, there are things that we can do. But before we get to that, though, I think we all need to understand why this is an issue for each of us to be concerned about. To most of us here, there is an easy answer. We all need water to survive. If we run out of clean, safe water here in Kansas City, we all will suffer by that. However, our motivation to get involved should go deeper than that, though. What about the needs of our children and our grandchildren? What about the needs of our extended family and our neighbors? Those are also reasons for us to get involved. What about our national security? What will happen if there are water shortages in major cities across the United States? There are many numerous compelling reasons for us to get involved in this issue. The truth of the matter is that while we face water issues in the United States, though, they pale to the issues faced by people in the rest of the world. There are millions, if not billions, of people around the world who are affected daily because of water issues. A few statistics, I think, can reveal just how significant this problem is worldwide. Worldwide, 780 million people lack access to improved water source, approximately 1 in 9 people. And that's 2.5 times the United States population. Also, more than 3.5 million people die each year from water, sanitation, and hygiene-related causes. Nearly all the deaths, 99%, occur in the developing world. This number is equivalent to the entire population of Los Angeles. Another fact is lack of access of clean water and sanitation kills children at a rate equivalent to a jumbo jet crashing every 4 hours. And this happens all year round. And finally, each day over 200 million hours are used by women collecting water for their families in the world. And I've led some trips to Kenya before, and some of the stories I hear there from ladies is that they'd wake up in the morning and they'd have to walk 20 miles to fetch water, and then they walk 20 miles back to bring it to their family. And those are not even necessarily clean water sources, that's just a water source. And so just think of what those 200 million hours a day could be used for. Getting an education, starting a business, so much stuff that would be more productive than just fetching a bucket of water. It doesn't take much research to discover that the water issues are significant around the world. Unfortunately, in light of the problems we face, it's easy to want to simply focus at home and let the rest of the world worry about themselves. While it may be easy to feel that way, in a global society, we all too well understand how issues of people in other parts of the world directly affect us here in the United States. I hope that you are beginning to understand that the plight of water in the world today is something that affects each of us. However, we shouldn't be motivated simply out of self-interest. As people of faith, we have a spiritual responsibility to be concerned about these issues and to take action regardless of how they affect us personally. It is a matter of justice. As people of faith, we should strive daily to provide justice to the most vulnerable in the world, as well as to possibly the most vulnerable at all, the world itself. In many faith traditions of the world, there is an understanding that when God desires change in the world, that change happens at the hands of the faithful who are willing to respond to the gentle nudge of God's Spirit, people like each of you. While you cannot by yourself provide safe, clean water to the entire world, it is within your power to make a divine difference. To paraphrase the beautiful words of St. Teresa of Avila, God has no body on earth but yours, no hands but yours, no feet but yours, and yours are the hands by which God is to bless us now. I hope and pray that after today you will be better equipped and encouraged to work to improve the conditions of creation and all that live in not only Kansas City, but around the world. Thanks for coming today, and now we will take some time to hear from Jane. So,
yeah, I wanted to share with you a little thing. This is very short poem from a book called Women in Praise of the Sacred. And this is a really nice book. It goes way, way back in time, centuries, thousands of years back in time. And so, but this is a more recent poem from a woman named Edith Sodergren, if anybody recognizes it, 1892. And so this is called Forest Lake. And this is from a woman who grew up in Sweden. A lot of cold water there. So it's called Forest Lake. I was alone on a sunny shore by the forest's pale blue lake. In the sky floated a single cloud, and on the water a single isle. The ripe sweetness of summer dripped in beads from every tree, and straight into my open heart a tiny drop ran down. I just thought, that's nice. It's got a little of that summer, and we're so used to all this cold right now. Okay, so here's our beautiful blue planet, and we call it the beautiful blue planet, but what if you took away all the water? What would happen? Oh, the PowerPoint's not working. Oh, there. That's what would happen. We'd have a gray rock. This is all the water on the whole planet, all the fresh water, all the ocean water.
Wow.
And of course, you take away the air, it really looks like a little gray rock. So just think, this skin around the earth, this water, all the oceans, all the fresh water right there. So it's very precious to us. So, yeah, okay, let's move on. What about the water where we live? There's a really nice pamphlet over here about the watersheds in our local area, Kansas City. But World Resources, or World Wildlife Fund, has done the freshwater ecosystems for the entire world. Oh, there's the map that Mark has. Those are our little sub-watersheds, right around Kansas City area. Shoal Creek, Bush Creek, you know them. But here, this is what we sometimes have to think about. Let's get the view from the airplane 30,000 feet out. We are here in Kansas City. These are the two big freshwater ecosystems that we live. That's that interconnection between water, plants, animals, humans, So that's the freshwater ecosystem. And there's two of them, and we sit right on the edge. But what's the dominant feature in both of these? The Missouri River. The Missouri River. And our other rivers, too. So let's go. Now, let's not just think about this fresh water on the surface. Remember the groundwater. We don't see it, but it's sacred too. And we saw the map that Chad showed us. This potential for drought in western Kansas is very scary for us. We're losing water in the Ogallala and Great Plains aquifers. Josh Shevity was here not long ago talking to Village U about the effect of this on the agriculture, on the beef production. That's not just food, that's an economic issue for us. So groundwater is very, very important and sacred. How do we recognize groundwater? Because we forget it. We think, oh, you know, well, it's in the springs. We see springs, then we know groundwater. We see wetlands, critical. Wetlands are sometimes called the kidneys of the planet. They're cleaning water for it. And next, caves. There's real groundwater for you. It's not just in the pores of the soil and the rock. It's groundwater in its truest sense. Does anybody know how many caves are in Missouri? Over 6,300 caves in Missouri. It's called the cave state. Really a beautiful place to live. And these groundwaters are sacred. Okay, let's talk about the sacred water and its interconnection with our human systems. This dependency that we have, that Chad talked about. It's incredible. We drink water from the Missouri River. We also drink water in this ecosystems, those two big ecosystems, from the ground. Groundwater is a very important source of our drinking water. We use water to flush away our sanitary, our sanitary stuff down right into water. There's all kind of issues there with combined sewer overflows, things that aren't right in that system. But it's important that we use water in this way. It's municipal. So that's our municipal use. Industrial, water for cooling energy, power plants, coal and nuclear. Water for irrigation is huge in our ecoregion. That's a great big economic driver, and that's one of the reasons we're having so many problems with our Ogallala aquifer depletion issue. Water for recreation, boating, fishing, all the things we love to do, even our summer swimming pools, fresh water. It's just an incredible resource that our human systems depend on. What about these beautiful creatures that God put here on earth for us to enjoy in these freshwater ecosystems? Now these are the big rivers in these two areas in ours where we live. You know those rivers: Osage, Missouri, Neosho, Republican. This is a picture of Missouri. Does anybody know this fish? Anybody recognize the fish?
Gar.
Pallid sturgeon. Okay, cool. That's one of God's great creatures, prehistoric. How about the rest of these creatures? Anybody heard of them? These are beautiful, beautiful fish. This one's like a rainbow. The Neosho Bad Tom. How about that name? Hellbender salamander. Aren't these beautiful creatures? Least tern, piping plover. Now those birds cannot live outside of the Missouri River. That they depend on the river for their nesting. Okay, who knows? Why did I pick these animals?
Endangered.
All of them are endangered. They're not the polar bear, they're not the megafauna that's way cool that we care about, endangered species, but they're beautiful. This hellbender salamander, they don't even let you touch it anymore. This is an old picture. You can't even touch them. They're that sensitive to, to life. Okay, now this is the other cool thing. Our laws are really bifurcated in this area. Our sacred waters are all connected. They're interconnected. The fresh water, the ocean water. This is just a little pictorial to remind us. These river basins impact the ocean. The coastal waters impact the fresh waters. And we have to remember that. But our laws aren't written that way. We all come coastal zone management law. And then we have the Clean Water Act and all these different laws for the fresh water. That they're very interconnected. So let's remember that. Okay, now we have to switch gears. So that's our beautiful sacred water. What about what we do that's not so good? Okay, all right. We know about agriculture, giant CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operation. Even row crops. Row crops, they form right up next to these water bodies. It's a problem. Their fertilizer are going in that water. You know about the manure from the CAFOs. Why do I have a faucet? What's the faucet?
Wasting water at home?
Yeah, our leaky faucets. And why am I showing people watering their grass?
Don't need to do it.
Because what are they really watering in this picture?
Street.
Yeah, they're wasting water. And then our little construction projects, we don't think much about. All that sediment, where's it going? You know, because somebody's building a new subdivision. So what is the problem with this? Again, here's our cable, but all these problems contribute to excess nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus. These are big issues in water quality today. Next. And according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency on their website, it is the problem with our water quality today. Nutrient pollution. What is it causing? Eutrophication is the proper name. Killing of lakes, freshwater lakes, from this algae that overgrows. Fish don't have enough oxygen, they can't live. We can't recreate in water like this. These harmful algal blooms are toxic to humans. There's actually one reported case of a death from exposure to a cyanobacteria where a person, jumped into one of these slimy water. I mean, who would do that? But still, teenagers, I've been anything, and it was a teen. So that's National Institute of Health. Okay. All right, what are the sources of nitrogen and phosphorus? Well, you already saw those ag sources, we know about agriculture. We know about some of those urban stormwater problems. You might not know that a lot of the nitrogen comes from air pollution. Nitrogen and air pollution falls on the water. Your municipal wastewater treatment plant. Those plants are controlled for all kinds of problems. There's pollutant effluent limitations on our wastewater treatment plants, but they are not controlled for nitrogen and phosphorus as mandated by the federal government. Now the states are beginning to regulate the nitrogen and phosphorus from these municipal power plants. And you may know there's an exemption for agricultural runoff, so they're not covered by the Clean Water Act at all. So those farmers can farm right up to that edge of their, field and water, and it's legal. This is a $120 billion industry. This is a $130 billion industry every year. This industry produces 1 billion pounds of manure every year. So, there's money here. We can fix these problems if we want, and there are big problems that need to be fixed. Next. Okay, what are the health impacts? They're serious health impacts. I already mentioned, the possibility of some teenager jumping into the slime water. That's rare. But they do have quite a bit of information from the National Institute of Health Environmental Division, and they talk about these algal toxins and the risk from, if you ingest any of that, you can have, it's gastrointestinal, it's respiratory, it's blood, and it's even neurological impact. So it can be from consuming that shellfish that's been exposed, or even swimming. I'm sure some of you are in the medical profession and have heard of blue baby syndrome, where your hemoglobin is impacted because of nitrate in water that you ingest that turns into nitrite. And that creates a risk for anybody under 6 months. What they call blue baby syndrome, just lack of oxygen. So it's very serious. There's similar, very serious risk to aquatic life, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on. That groundwater, that sacred groundwater, it's contaminated with these nitrates, fertilizers from the farms. Look where we live. These are groundwater sources. Women who drink this water, these private drinking water wells, are at risk from this nitrate. Okay, so we're studying this, we're trying to figure this out, we're assessing this. About 50% of all the waters that are assessed, the waters that we know about, lakes and rivers, 50% have high to medium levels of nitrogen and phosphorus. Look at Missouri. Does anybody find that odd? They're not even assessing it in Missouri. So the 50% figure is the waters that we're assessing. So we don't even know in our state. We're not even sure what's going on. So what's the other thing? Dead zones in coastal waters. As this, remember the interconnection, fresh water, surface water. Where does all that nutrient go? Down to the Gulf of Mexico. This is the dead zone, the hypoxic zone, no oxygen in the water. The nutrients feed the bacteria. The bacteria grow, they die off, kills the oxygen level, then the fish die. We have the second largest dead zone on the planet. Now there's 300 or 400 of these dead zones all over the world. So we're not alone with this problem. This is a worldwide problem of nutrients. You can see, you know, India has the problem, Europe has the problem, South America. Ours here in the Gulf of Mexico, second largest in the world. It's estimated that if we would put $20 billion into this problem of nutrients today, in 2006 dollars, knows what that means, we could begin to solve the problem of that one hypoxic zone in the Gulf of Mexico. What's the federal government doing about this? The federal government needs to be involved. If you remember, back at the beginning, I showed you our two beautiful ecosystems, our freshwater ecosystems, and the boundaries didn't look anything like these boundaries. These are political boundaries. So in our freshwater ecosystems, we've got Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and even part of Arkansas, and Nebraska. You've got a lot to do to coordinate that kind of politics. And yet this is how the federal government and the state governments approach it in our blocks, in our states. And the fact is that 25 states, 25 or 26, don't have any protections at all for nutrients in the water. None. And the federal government needs to step up, and there's lawsuits about this, you know, trying to get the feds to step up and mandate some protections under the Clean Water Act. Okay. What can we do? We're just people, as individuals, and we want to do something to reclaim our sacred waters. So I got a little series of pictures for you. Plant a rain garden in your church, at your home. It helps. This is urban runoff. Go ahead. Rain barrels. Probably a lot of you guys already have this stuff. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Get a rain barrel. Go ahead. Pesticide-free zone. Think about next. Organic lawn care. We can do this. We can do this stuff. It's simple. And you don't like to pick up dog poop? Nobody does. Oh, it's his job. But you gotta do it. You gotta do it. This is what we want. We want beautiful wetlands. We want beautiful fresh water. And so last slide is more resources, tons and tons of stuff from EPA. Go here, think about what you can do in your community. It's right there. EPA's got tons of ideas. And last, what can we do as congregations? So thank you very much. I appreciate having me back.
We have, our purpose is to help you as people in congregations to do as little work as possible with as much effectiveness and output. That sounds like a good plan. So no need to reinvent the wheel when we have marvelous, marvelous resources here. So we're going to have a little parade of groups here. And then we're going to have a break where you can talk at greater length with people from these groups or pick up their materials. I'm going to start, because we do not have a representative from MARC here. I'm going to start with that, but MARC is MARC, and that stands for the Mid-America Regional Council, which includes 119 municipalities in the greater Kansas City area, and they are about building sustainable community in every aspect you can think of, getting people together and so forth. So if you go to one of their things that has to do with water right now, is a study on the degradation of the Missouri River. Okay, this could be very significant. And over on the table there, this end of the green table, there are a bunch of pickups from Mark that are just wonderful. They tell you how to do a rain garden, how to do a rain barrel, all kinds of things. There's one that's called Know Your Watershed. That's the one I held up, where you can see the mini watershed that you're part of there, which is just a phenomenal little map. So I encourage you to go over and look at their resources. They are just a tremendous resource. And their overall vision is just, you know, they deal with health, they deal with everything you can think of to build a sustainable, healthy community in the larger metro area. Let's see, Carol, you want to?
Well, Kristen, want to go first?
No, whatever's convenient.
Okay. Well, I just was looking at who was
Okay.
next on the list.
Okay, well, I speak that, I'll do that. I'm just around this side. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Riot with Bridging the Gap. And Jerry asked me to come and tell you a little bit about our work over the past 20 months with water conservation in the Kansas City area. This was funded by your tax dollars, and the Obama stimulus package, which we're all very sad has finally run out. But it was a large program focused on low-income neighborhoods in KCMO, and the primary concern was the water and energy nexus. As you know, water is very heavy. It's 8 pounds per gallon, and it actually uses a lot of energy to pump it around our city. So we're actually putting more coal-fired electricity output into the air and so on when we use water. So the focus of our program was this handy-dandy little kit, and having worked for Hallmark for many years, it didn't surprise me that it flew off the shelf because of the house-shaped box. People didn't even care what was inside it. But what was inside it actually was even more significant, which is various low-flow water devices, low-flow shower head, various kinds of faucet aerators, and basically these devices just force air into the water, so you still have the same amount of water pressure. You can stand under the shower and get pounded on like you like to do, but it doesn't use nearly as much water in the process. And also there is included in here a toilet tank bank, which you fill with water and you hang in the back of the tank, and it displaces water every time you flush. And of course toilets inside the house are the biggest single user of water. The old toilets would gobble up 5 to 6 gallons every time you flushed. If you go home and you look under your toilet tank, you can see what year your toilet was actually manufactured. I have one in my house with 1956 on it, and we haven't replaced it yet, but we don't use it. So anyway, this is kind of like the old brick idea, or you can take a soda pop bottle, fill it with water, put it in the back of the tank. It's just basic displacement. And of course, there's the ever popular, if it's yellow, let it mellow. Although I learned, don't let it mellow for too long, because then it becomes a science experiment. But so we distributed, Bridging the Gap distributed with these federal dollars, we distributed 7,000 of these water-saving kits in KCMO this past year. We also administered 1,400 toilet rebates. So the actual homeowners was responsible for buying the toilet and getting it installed, but we rebated them for the cost of the toilet. So 1,400 more of those. We placed 375 rain barrels, and we also designed and installed 17 rain gardens. So it was a very big program. Of these kits, 1,600 of them were professionally installed, a lot of them in low-income apartment buildings and things like that. Each one of these kits represents a savings of about 14,000 gallons, or about 20 to 25% on people's water bills. So for low-income folks, it's a very big deal for saving money as well as helping the environment. So I wanted to tell you about this for all of your churches, because the convenience of having these kits on hand at a church event is, they're very popular. People will come up and want to buy one of these items. They're not universal. So you may want to consider having an event at your congregation, I'm so sorry, I've got so many good Jewish friends in the community, but I'm just saying church, and I shouldn't be. Congregation, but you could maybe even consider this to be a small fundraiser, but just having the convenience of having these elements and just having something tangible that people can do, that they can just go home right after your event and put this in at home is really helpful. I have these throughout my house. I sneaked them in on my teenagers and they never knew that I changed into a low-flow shower head. Teenagers are the worst users of water on the planet. Some of them stay in the shower for 45 minutes and longer. So this is it's kind of an under-discussed way to help with water conservation. And I've taken longer than my 2 minutes, so excuse me.
Are your
Carol.
kids still available in
They're
congregation?
not.
They're not.
No, but you can get them. These are made from Niagara Corporation, and it's in California. The kits in the box at the quantities that we were buying them are only about $11 a box. So it's very, very inexpensive. This box pays itself back faster than a light bulb, which is pretty fast. Like in the first month, you recover your costs from it. But this is not a particularly fancy, Johnson County style version of a shower head. You can get more expensive chrome, nickel finishes and that kind of stuff. But you might want to take a look and see if you could maybe choose to offer an array to your congregations. I think it would be a winner for you.
Niagara what?
Niagara Corporation is the name of it. Let me see if there's anything more.
California.
They're in California, yes. And I don't know what their minimum quantities would be, but it might be kind of interesting for you to see Niagara Conservation, it says on the box. It might be interesting for you to pool an order as a group. So thank you for letting me go first, Carol.
Okay, my display is all about is what our congregation has done to try to get people interested in doing something about water. And I wanted Christine to go first because Bridging the Gap is one of the resources that we have used. EPA is a resource we have used. Sustainable Sanctuary is a resource we have used. The UN is a resource we have used. They have excellent materials. March 22nd is World Water Day. You can look that up and get lots of information. And water.org, which is a locally headquartered but national organization that does work all over the world, is also a great resource for these very eye-catching graphics that really communicate well some of the issues about water, sanitation, and clean drinking water. So those are some of the resources that our church has used, and we try really hard to give credit when we use a resource because it's the law, and because, well, no, I'm serious, because it's the law, and because that gives people a chance to find out more information than what they're seeing at the church. Bridging the Gap has done a couple of rain barrel workshops for us, and so that's been great. What I want to talk to you about is a couple of different campaigns that we have done, what we were trying to communicate and how it worked. The simplest one I'll start with is we do prescription drug take-backs. And we do those to keep those pharmaceuticals out of the water. Not just the narcotics, but as many leftover pharmaceuticals as we can. But because you do collect narcotics when you do a prescription drug take-back, it's essential that you have the cooperation of your local police department because you do not want to be collecting controlled substances. I mean, that's really important. And so there's a piece of paper here that tells how we do the prescription drug take-back. It used to be hard to dispose of prescription drugs. It is not hard anymore. Most of the police departments in the region will take them. But it does build awareness to do them at your congregation, and we usually pair them with blood drives. So that'll give you, that was one of the things that we've done and it's worked out fairly well.
What do you do with that?
So all of the police take it. You have the policeman there who supervises it and the police take it. You do not want it.
What I'm saying is all prescription drugs?
Yeah, we just take everything, but people are going to bring you in their,
Yeah.
some of them,
Controlled substance.
yeah.
What's the ultimate method of disposal?
Take them to the,
Incineration?
yeah, take them to the police department, and I think they incinerate most of it. But a lot of police departments will just have a, kind of a receptacle in the office, and you put them in that, and they dispose of them. So that's one of the things.
Can I ask it? Is it within, also that you bring it in the container?
Yeah.
Or then do they recycle or contain?
No, I think they just burn it, because they don't want the name, when you have confidence.
Listen, I'm wondering if we can hold the
Yeah.
questions, we're
That's
gonna
all
have a
right.
break
That'd
in
be
just a
better.
few minutes, and then you can ask all the questions you want.
Okay. Then we had two different campaigns that I wanted to tell you about. One was a Lenten campaign that we did a couple years ago, and it was called Make a Change, Change a Life. And we were trying to get, this was our message, quit drinking bottled water. Tap water is better for you than bottled water. Give the money you save by not drinking bottled water to provide clean water for people who don't have it. So that was kind of the connection. And one of the things we did that was super effective that I can recommend is we put these little signs with facts that we thought would be compelling. We stuck these in every toilet stall, over every urinal, over every drinking fountain, every sink, and every paper towel dispenser in our church. And so people could not escape our message. It was super effective. We had people talking about it for a month.
You didn't waterboard them, did you, Carol?
We did not. No, but we definitely got them at their water and sanitation contact points. So that was really good. One of the things we did was we sold plastic water bottles. These are BPA-free water bottles. We sold them for $10. They're still for sale for $10. $5 covers our cost. $5 went to, at this point, we bought filters for Haiti, but we would donate it to water.org at this point. The bottom line of that, it was really effective. We used a lot of water.org graphics, and we used a lot of information about plastic pollution in the water. We had bulletin boards and posters up all around the church, in addition to invading everybody's private space. The other thing that we did was a year later, and we tried to do a connection between litter and water pollution. And candidly, it was a more difficult connection for us to get the congregation to make. But what we did was we had a hashtag campaign, and the hashtag campaign was I Picked It Up. And so we told people to pick up litter and to take a picture of it and post it on the internet with the hashtag I Picked It Up. And we had hoped that the young people would really get into that, not as much as we had hoped. But all of the infrastructure for that exists. The hashtag site, the metrics, it's on Facebook. Anybody can tap into that and use it. It's not something that is owned or attached forever to our church. It's open. And we also wrote, I picked it up on 2,000 green plastic bags and put the instructions on how to do it and handed those out. We've had a lot of luck working with different partners. We worked with No Mo Trash in Missouri on the I Picked It Up campaign. And the other thing that we have at our church is we have a community recycling center at our church. And so what I have here for you, if you want it, is for each congregation I have information about these two campaigns and the prescription pickup, and then I have a disc, and this disc has all the files that we used for all this material. So if you are interested in doing either of these things, you might need to modify the files, to suit what you're doing, but you are welcome to what we did, and you can probably improve it from there.
I think you also said one per congregation.
I think there's probably enough for one per congregation with no problem, but I would appreciate it if you do that. We have also done an environmental film series, and so I have a little information about the films we've used, and you can take one of those. We are having a Valentine's dinner and movie of Chasing Ice this coming Friday, so if you would like to come see Chasing Ice and eat pizza for free, you can come do that, and my contact information is on the back. So, that's what this spread is.
Thank you.
you.
I'd like to add a word about water.org because I got some, Gary White, who's the lead pony in that operation, happens to have a wife who works at the hospital with me, so she got me these posters. But the thing about water.org is that they work with the local people in terms of what they want, and then they work with the local people to develop it. So they develop ownership right from the beginning, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the micro loans and micro banks. They've done a lot with that, of getting people to get a small loan to make an improvement, either water or a toilet or both, and then to, as they pay back that loan, then they qualify for a bigger loan, and they can do another thing. But the thing that's so cool about this thing is the way it's rooted in the people. They don't come in and do things for people. They come in and figure out how to do it with them for what they want. I think that's,
There's one more.
True Blue Women.
True Blue Women.
All right.
My name's Jennifer Beyer. I'm with an organization called True Blue Women. That organization was founded in 2004 after the 2004 elections. A small group of us were pretty bummed out. And there were just a handful of us that started the organization then, and now we number a few hundred. I chair the Environment Committee. I want to mention that we go way back with Sustainable Sanctuary Committee, way back in the early Holcomb days, which now we refer to as a zombie plant because it won't die. So that goes on. True Blue Women, let me just say quickly that we have 4 committees: healthcare, social justice, and education, and then of course the Environment Committee. We have done community educational outreach at events like this and the many Earth Fair kinds of events. Many of our topics tie into water, at least indirectly. Early on, we did an organic lawn care display, and followed by corn ethanol and the water issues that surround that, including the runoff, fertilizer runoff, and how that contributed to the algae blooms in the Gulf. Right now we're using this particular display a lot. We have another one that's that revolves around energy efficiency, and that goes back to what Kristen said about the connection between water use and energy efficiency, which is something that I think most people don't automatically make that connection, but it is, you know, very significant. The figure that I've seen is that about 1/3 of municipal energy costs relate to pumping water. So that's something that not that many people are aware of, I think. Let's see. Well, this fall did a presentation for the Village U on bottled water. I have a PowerPoint, and then again in early March I will be back doing a probably slightly altered version of that.
March 3rd.
March.
Here at Village.
Yeah. So I'm here to answer any questions. Sadly, not a lot of the figures on this, which dates back several years, haven't changed very much. I wish it were the case that it was looking better, but they're pretty consistent.
What are the nurdles?
What?
Nurdles are plastic raw material. They're resin pellets. And yeah, I can tell you all about them. They're plastic resin pellets, and it's a big deal. There's an organization International Pellet Lodge. All they do is track marine pollution from these pellets. There's huge spillage, and it's a big, all by itself, a huge pollution issue.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. 15 minutes.
So, the first one we're going to go to is Eco Justice Ministries. You can navigate the site on your own, but what I thought was interesting was under resources, you have curriculum reviews. If you're going to do, why didn't it go? You know what, that would be here.
Hit it hard. Hit it harder, that's what I did.
It's like it's loading.
It's loading and slow.
Oh, that might be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is a rather long resource, I think. Okay. As you can see, it says there's over 91 titles in the database. You can pick information out by age and by the number of sessions that you want to do. So if you want to do a short series. And they have reviewed curriculum from a lot of sites. And a lot of times you don't know where to order it, you don't know what kind of topics there are, and so this is a good reference. And I think it's unique. So you may want to look at that site. Also later on when we're talking about strategic development, this is their homepage, and we'll be looking at transformational ministry, leadership in action, and just doing the basics as far as, you know, taking a look at where your congregation is at. And for each one of those things, there's a much more in-depth guide if you follow through that website. And I have a printout of one of the assessments that's back there that you can look at your leisure. Okay. The next site is Creation Justice. This is the National Council of Churches site. And this one you can see I have a lot of different links in because it's kind of hard to navigate through, I think. But it has a lot of good resources. Under campaigns, you have Earth Day Sunday. That gives you a guide that you can see back there that tells you item by item what to do for your Earth Day celebration planning guide. Some of them are from other years, but it's still, you know, would be a worthwhile pattern. Okay. Here's water conservation. And in it you can see that there are links in blue. And some of those are the printouts that you see back there. This is a very good one because it gives you other resources. Reducing your daily water consumption, bottled water, how to advocate kicking the water bottle habit. And I think there's a water footprint in this one. Anyway, that's how you get to that. Also, on this sidebar here, if you're into activism, it gives you an activist toolbox. It's a good guide. And then e-advocacy, you can see that there are mainline groups that have an advocacy group. Presbyterians, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, Episcopal Church, United Church of Christ, and I think there's a Catholic one too. So, some churches don't have that.
I have found excellent resources with the Jewish, I don't know what their website's called.
Is it through the conservative movement of Judaism? It could be.
Not sure now.
Eco-justice.
Yeah. Eco-justice.
Eco-justice. Now, on this one, you can see environmental justice resources. There's a lot of other resources that are in related areas. But at the bottom here, you have the water resources, and that's where you can apply for I Was Thirsty. And in that part, when you apply for it, it asks what denomination you're part of. And this should have Jewish and Muslim also, I believe. I'd have to put this in here, but religious affiliation. Anyway, so it's patterned to what your religious affiliation is. And then it has a water steward's toolkit. Okay. Yes, on that side it has links to the water footprint and the watershed chemical creation. That's back there. That's just like a little flyer. Okay. Here's what the Presbyterians have. Lots of links on their information guide here on water. And it has a commitment pledge that you can use. And this one also has Living Waters for the World. I mean, it has lots of issues outside of, you know, the local area and internationally, so you may want to look at that site. This Ecumenical Water Network, I have the 2 flyers that are for that. They have a water cube idea that you can develop. You know, you just build this water cube and you show what would go in it as far as water is. And, oh, it has a good fact sheet as far as meat production and all the foods that you have, how much water it takes to produce those, and it's quite surprising. It's put in terms of liters, but as you know, a liter is like about a quart of water. This is the Sierra Club trifold on water. It didn't print out so well back there, but you get the idea. So it has the usual bottled water thing, but what I like here is its stress on water as not being a commodity. You know, the value is discussed, which I think is a big concern here. It says water is a public resource, not a commodity. Public policy must ensure the sustainability of safer water supplies for the benefit of all people and natural environment. And I think that it's on a social justice issue that your congregations should be concerned about, and I'm sure are. That's you know, as a religious group, I think we motivate people a lot by their identity as, you know, living by a certain creed, and that's a strong impetus. Okay, now this other bottled resources, you've seen this before. This is an animated site, and you can just run it, you know, right from here if I wanted to do it. So if you had a projector, you know, you could do it. It's always cute because it's, you know, like we've seen this before. But take a look at that. It's on your list here. Very effective. All right.
You need to go back and pause it. Down on the left, yeah.
Water Watch, I have the flyers from that, I mean, for the newsletter. But if you look at this site, it deals a lot with issues for food and water. You know, the over antibiotic use, the GMOs, the fracking, and it's quite a lobby group, and it has a lot of good information for where we're at. And it works about some of the concerns that Jane addressed, you know, the nitrates and the ruining of the water. This one here is the Berkeley, under the bottled water, Berkeley site. It's a PDF that gives you presentation right off the site.
What's it called?
It's the, under other bottled water resources. This is the one from Berkeley.
It's the last one.
Last one there. So, right there at your fingertips. How are we doing on time? We're just about done here.
You're fine, you got time, Kathy, go ahead.
Well, I didn't put these on a tab, but you see down here, Friends of the Caw. I thought maybe you'd be bringing some things, but as you know, the Friends of the Caw is part of the River Keepers Alliance, the one that Robert Kennedy formed out in New York. Well, they're part of that same organization, but they bring it down to a local level for what they're doing. There's projects for young people, you know, things that you could take them out to. There's educational resources. There's a discussion of our own watershed area, and I think that is very pertinent. Water issues in Kansas. Now this is an academic paper done at the request of the Heartland Regional Water Coordination Initiative. EPA was one of those agencies, and there's about 5 others that asked that this study be done. It was done in Ames, Iowa, Iowa State University, done by their sociology department, but they drew on their agricultural school. And they looked at the perceptions that people in Kansas have about water. So when you get down to looking at what rings people's certain bells, you know, by if an urban area or agricultural or regional area, there's a lot of graphics in there. It goes back from 2007, but the progress we're making, that's probably pretty recent. Okay. And then the last one I have there is the Kansas Energy Information Network, Kansas Water Issues. Let me type this one in because I thought this was this was fairly neat site. I didn't know how my time would work out here. I have to tell you, on that Sierra site, you see there's a little gap when you get on that address for the Sierra Club Trifold. There's a little gap in the letters. There's supposed to be an underscore there.
Yeah.
So when you type it in, you don't get led astray. Here we are. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff on the side for energy news, climate change, coal, hydropower, I mean, whatever your issue is. But what I thought was really of interest are citations of different articles that have been written throughout the state about water that are current, 2013, 2014. So that's quite a resource. Over on the left, you have some of the information maybe that you got water level reports, Kansas Drought Report, Drought Watch, Southwest Kansas, you know, if you're really getting into what the issues are in your area. Johnson County Stormwater Management Program, City of Lawrence Stormwater, City of Leawood Stormwater and Runoff. And here's regional. Drought leads to livestock sales, new water wars, study shows broad decline in Rocky snowpack. So here's thing on rain gardens, resources, how-to guides for rain barrels, and demonstration projects that have been done, like in DeSoto and K-State. So I thought that was quite unique. All right. The only other thing that was really kind of fun, I'm not going to type this in, but I'll just put it out here. This is about a $20 water bottle, and if you had an organization that was interested in joining this, this is just really interesting how they did this. This bottle has all sorts of factoids on it, but it's a measurement. They put everything in terms of how many of these bottles would be used. So you've got something that's a demonstration, and then it has lines on it, so it tells you, you know, it's like a little measuring device. This is how much oil it takes. You know, you have a line right on the bottle, and it's quite unique. But you'd have to go to that site. It's called Alliance for Water Efficiency.org. Now the other, the last sheet that's here, I'll just borrow it for a second. These sites, I'm sure, are still very relevant. These books go back to about 2004, but once you go into Amazon, you can find stuff that's really good. That might be a little bit more current by those same authors, and you get a good idea of it. But it has the United Nations site, the EPA site. As you know, the United Nations has made this the decade of water. And back there it shows that they compiled a report as to what's happened and then what they're going to do in 2015. There's going to be a hearing in just about a week on the General Assembly that's going to talk about sustainability in water. Okay, I'm running short on time. I can see Public Citizen is in here too. That's a good advocacy group.
Just a couple more resources. There's a more detailed bibliography of books, especially Maud Barlow is wonderful. I started reading this and I thought there's so much to know about water and privatization, etc. So if somebody wants to pass those out, if you'd like one. Just something we do at our churches, we have a weekly bulletin, so we always have bulletin green tips, and so these are some bulletin notices that you could put in your newsletters or whatever about water, or use it wherever, things that people can do. So, and then the last thing I want to mention as far as a resource is we've developed a speakers bureau regarding water, at least the beginning of one. So we've got a basic presentation with slides about this whole issue called the World Water Crisis and what people of faith can do. And then Jane is available to give her presentation, and Jennifer on bottled water. So we've got some speakers, and if you want any other specific topics, you can get a hold of Chad, and because we'd like to encourage every congregation at least to have one educational program, you know, at your Sunday school or retreat or something, so that we're educating. And it's always going to include something of what they can do about it. So we'll also pass these around. Okay.
Okay? Is that it? Sometimes, do you ever have the feeling like the stars are aligning in your favor? Within about 3 days of when we chose this focus on water, I don't know, it was 3 days before, 3 days after, the National Council of Churches came up with the same focus. And then we became aware that the United Nations has the same focus. So, you know, it's like the stars are aligning around this issue. I think the world is coming to tell us something. We want to move now to the more practical aspect of what do you do when you get back home. And one thing that I would suggest before you get it is that you would reach out to your neighbors. Now, Guardian Angels in Westport is part of the group we call the Roanoke Churches. There's about 5 churches within probably a 6-block radius. And so our hope is to engage those congregations. We have a limited number of congregations here. But if you reached out and engaged others from your denomination or others in your geographic area, think how much could happen when people do it. So I want to do 2 things. Talking a little bit about planning and a little bit then about how to get there, and then give you a few minutes anyway to brainstorm about some plans that you might want to make. And one of my favorite quotations from Alice in Wonderland is when the Queen says to Alice, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will do." And how often have you sat at a meeting, and people come in the meeting and say, "Well, what should we do? We could do this, or we could do that, or we could do another thing." And there's no criteria to select from, because you don't know where you're going. So I would suggest, and Chuck and Jerry, would you pass those?
Yeah.
Chuck and Jerry are passing some sheets out to you. So my suggestion is we want you to be a lot smarter than that. And that first means deciding where you want to go. And the where you want to go, I think, has 2 main components. Number 1, who are you talking to? Who are the people in your congregation? There's plenty. Who are the people in your congregation? Are they an elder congregation? Are they young families? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? What pushes their buttons? You know, what gets them into action? What motivations are going to move them? And that's going to be congregation specific, because they're going to respond if it's something that has to do with what's important to them. So that's kind of where you need to start, is looking at your audience, so to speak, or your clientele. And the second is we are really interested in making a difference. So the second question on your planning guide there is, which of the aspects of the rural or local water issues would most likely capture their attention to me and motivate them to action? Okay, what are they likely to respond to? And then the most important one is, what measurable difference would you like to see your congregation make with regard to some aspect of sacred water? We don't have time, folks, as you've seen from Chad this morning with his litany of problems. We don't have time to just throw things out in general. We need to really make a difference. Now, if you're going to make a difference, you've got to first define what difference you want to make. And then everything you do from there is not, oh, well, what should we do? It's a question of what most reliably, effectively, quickly, certainly takes us to make this difference. And I think Platt Woods gave us a wonderful example of that. They wanted to wean people from bottled water. And they have a whole, you know, from their factoids on the toilet stalls to their selling reusable bottles to their tapping into the fact that all people in all religious congregations are supposed to care about the poor, and linking with Haiti, you know, and the underdeveloped poor. Everything channeled into that one thing. And they were able to make a measurable difference in a lot of different directions. So I hold that up as kind of almost an ideal type of program. But those are the things that, and then after you define what difference you're going to make, then make a plan to get there. something I think that we sometimes don't do enough is connecting this with the faith of the people in your congregation. Look at your denominational statements, look at scripture, think about what motivates good people of faith, what moves them to action. Second is education. I think I have been enlightened by the presentations today, all the different issues around water. And people sometimes simply don't know. I was stunned when I heard the 30% of Casey Mo's, push the coal on the power plant goes to the circulation of water. I mean, that just stunned me. People don't know a lot of these things. They just don't know. So what motivations then would you appeal to? If any of you know the Myers-Briggs type indicator, I'm kind of drawing this from there. People have a lot of different motivations. Could be saving money, doing the right thing, thinking about our children and grandchildren, the opportunity to build a different world, the one that our hearts long for, the care for the poor and needy, needing to change the structures of society by them. And so you probably need to tap into all those motivations. You know, don't go on just one. Try to tap into as many motivations as you possibly can. And then you also need to look at what scope or scopes you want to work on. You can, oh my goodness, a real microphone. You can ask people to do things individually, like change their shower heads, or give up bottled water, or as a family. The congregational commitments are important. I'm proud to say that as soon as the weather gives us a break, Guardian Angels is installing solar panels on the school.
Wow.
Yay.
Can your congregation get rid of disposables at your parish events, etc., etc.? The congregation, as a congregation, should be leading the way, should be modeling, demonstrating, encouraging. Then I mentioned the local neighborhood or community, the watershed bioregion. There are two Little Blue River group and the Blue River Watershed in Missouri. I'm sorry, we tried to get those people, and I didn't do my homework and find out much about them. But there are watershed organizations around that you can connect with. And then finally, changing laws and structures and regulations. We can't do it by ourselves. We can all give up bottled water. It's not going to change the system. And that's where your advocacy comes in. And all you have to do is get on a couple of groups like the Pew Research Center, earthjustice.org, get on a few, and they'll tell you when the laws are coming up and give you actually a pre-written letter. It's better if you write your own, but if you just click and send, that's still a way to help. And then find supporters in your community or credible people in your congregation. Somebody who's really respected to get up and give the message. And then just the regular planning thing. Decide on your action or actions, your timeline, responsibility, go. Okay. Is that any questions or comments on that? It's kind of a way to think about your planning. Now look on the back side. This is, if any of you were at our 2 Monday events, we did some mind mapping of issues around sacred water. And in case you think this is simple, just look over this. It'll help you realize this is just a broader context for whatever you decide to do to help people to realize how critical water is and how many things are not going well today.
Okay. I think groceries has gotten you into the planning and probably hit many of the same points I had. What I want provided here for you is a matrix to put this onto, to take home with you, and a way to think about integrating this stuff into the 5 general areas in a congregation that you might be dealing with. You can see on the back, we're talking about worship, education, building and grounds, and discipleship of the community members at home and work, and then public ministry and political advocacy. A lot of this information has come out of the Web of Creation manual that is, if you go to the site, it's listed there. The manual is free on PDF to download has a wealth of information for whatever level your congregation is at.
What was that website?
Web of Creation.
Thank you.
Where is this? You should have three sheets of paper with you. Everybody have three? You should have three. It's hard holding this microphone and doing stuff with one hand. One of them is Eco Justice Ministries. It shows you the three levels that the congregation may be at, just in general. And Rose Trees talked, what turns your congregation on, kind of. And you can go to that site and it goes much more in depth. So when you come down to what your goals are, maybe if you have a real short-term one and a simple project, you might have one that's just doing the basics for your congregation. Whereas at Platte Woods, that water project is well integrated into many different areas in the church. In order to make things last, we don't want just a flash in the pan. We'd like you to make this a year of the water. And so think in terms of what you can do kind of throughout the year that are maybe a short-term project, one that is, we call level 1. Level 2, maybe 2 to 3 months planning, or it takes that long to get something cranked through, or if there's funds involved. And then level 3 would be something that maybe is Rose Teresa's dream of what we're going to do massively later on. But your congregation may actually get there. And so what this sheet here is out of this manual, and it goes much more in depth in the manual. But one side gives you Green Congregation mission statements as far as what worship would be concerned with, what education would be, building and grounds, to kind of study what the goals might be in that area and where you pigeonhole things. And then on the back, it gives you, not in terms of water, but kind of an idea of things you would do in each of those areas, ideas. And then I have another sheet here. Well, okay, so the main thing you have to define and what you started working on is what is your purpose. There's all sorts of ideas and maybe you can integrate them in, but you kind of have to decide, are you working on a social justice issue? Are you working on water conservation? Are you working on community involvement and advocacy? If that's the main focus of what you're doing, what your purpose is, what your vision is, what would it be like if you could have things the way you wanted in those areas? And that would incorporate maybe some short-term, medium, and long-term goals. If you're thinking about getting people stimulated to do something, 70% of it is vision. You can envision what this would look like. And when you go out and pick up these ideas and you go to sell them, that's what's going to hit a congregational member, because it taps on some of their value system and what the church is about. These are the same questions that Rose Teresa asked you, but they're part of the planning process. It gives you levels of action. I have a sheet here that I will put by the book that gives you ideas of level 1, 2, and 3, what that would look like. And then I wanted you to put it in a matrix as you do your planning. Doesn't this work? In each of those areas, if you can find ways to get some involvement, then you will have something that will be longer lasting and maybe you can maintain in the church. And then with whom, when, and where do you plan to implement these action goals, and how will you measure? And what we'd like to do at Sustainable Sanctuaries, ask you later in the year, or maybe if we bring a group back together, that you've kind of laid this stuff out, so you have a good idea of how you've measured it and what you were about and what your strategic plan was over this year. And then maybe at the end, someday, maybe we can celebrate what we achieved today, together. Okay. So I'll put this back on the table and you can look at it later on if you want.